All right. So we're gonna get this track ready for mastering. This is kind of just an example. I'm going to take my headphones off because I don't want to hear myself the whole time. Well, I guess I am going to. All right. So basically, what we're gonna do is first thing when you're done with your track is check overall frequency. Can't talk. Can't talk when I hear myself. It's really dumb. Okay. Um, First, we're gonna check frequencies. So let's do that. How you're gonna do that is when you go to your mixer, the only thing that should be on there is probably a Fruity Parametric EQ for like a pass, a high pass for like building up for a drop, and this, and that's all there should be. So what we're gonna do is we're going to check these frequencies. And how we're going to do that is by, sorry, I'm kind of just messing around and see if I can not annoy myself with my own voice. It's kind of the only way without it sounding horrible. All right. The only way, or the way you do this, check frequencies, is check them in like bands, I guess. You can do this with like Maximus, I guess, but I'd rather do it this way because you can pick like visually, visually what you want to listen to. So we'll listen to a frequency, and I'll come back. Like I'll bring the master back up, and I'll tell you what we hear because this is kind of like just checking if all of your equalization is correct. So we're gonna check low end. Low end is the lowest, which is 20, to like 136, I want to say, is probably, or it's how I was taught, or it's just, somewhere 130 to 140, somewhere mid in there, based on how much low end you have in your song and where it all is. Pick a range between 20, the lowest, and somewhere in the bass and almost low mids. So we're going to do that first, and we're going to check our song. So, what we're looking for there is really to just see if we can hear all of the low end elements. Now, when you saw I checked the sidechain, there's two side chains. One is primarily gross beat, which it probably should look more like this. But it goes two different ways. One is the sub bass, and the sub bass is I decided to go with limiter on the sub bass, and everything else is like the loops will go on the side chain, which I'd be more comfortable with it going on gross beat, just because. No, not side chain. I want to route it, just because loops tend to peak really high So, although I'm just kind of like, this is a VIP. I just kind of didn't work on anymore. So I'm just kind of going back and fixing stuff as I go. So with low end in particular, you want to go and make sure everything is EQ'd, because even the tiniest frequencies can overlap each other. So with the snap, for example, right? Because there's so many frequencies over here, we're just going to take and isolate it. So you kind of do the technique you use with high end, and what I'm just going to kind of peak it off. You kind of do the same thing as you do with high end, as you would do with low end. Listen and see how much you can cut off before it sounds unnatural. Right about there, before it starts taking out the ambience from the original recording. And another thing, just to deal with low end in particular, we're going to go to our sub bass and look here. You can do this one of two ways. It's called, I mean, there's not like a technical term for it, but setting all of your low end to mono is a big thing. Because you don't want to, if you're sending it out to an engineer, or if you're mastering it yourself, you don't want to have to go find a like multi-band thing and or imager and have to convert your whole entire low end from one frequency to another, all to low end. And this is what I mean by that. If I were to go to my master and I were to take a Big Maximus, because it's a 3-band compressor, you can see this is the mids of me talking, the highs, and then these are the lows. Now, if we were to isolate the lows, you can barely hear me. You can barely hear me. So, what people would do is if you did not isolate everything in mono that was low end correctly, they would put it in mono based on the whole band of low end. So this whole band starts from 20, right there, as you can see, and then it goes to 130. So they would isolate the whole entire low end. I wonder if you can hear that actually. From here, you can hear me now, to here. Now, that means all of your low end is in mono, which if you're going to play it in clubs or nightclubs or concerts, most of their speakers are in mono, and you don't want any of the bass to be lost or not playing in all of the speakers. So that's why you set all of your low frequencies to mono. Now you don't have to do this for everything, just for things that are mono or that are low end, like sub bass. That's why I took Maximus, and I took the whole entire thing, since we know sub bass. If I were to go find where it is, where is it? Trying to find it. Hold on. somewhere here. Huh. Should be a sub base somewhere in there. Is there? Okay. So our sub base is actually the base line up here. So we take that and sub base is backing the original transpace right here. If we were to a little bit too much reverb, but it's backing it. So if we play them both, so it's solely low end. So we're going to keep that in mono. So take the master, put it in mono. So next, we can go to our kick. Obviously, in this one, the master's not in mono, because if it was in mono, let me just get it ready. If it was all in mono, then every single frequency band would be set to mono. Let's listen to that. See, this is without. Let's go ahead and take this off. So this is everything not isolated to mono, anything separated to stereo. Now, if we were to set it to mono by master, which is all three bands, you can barely hear the difference. This kick might have been actually recorded and then the low end was put into mono already, but it's good technique to put in mono anyways. And sometimes you can tell the difference, but some kicks, the high end will be spread just a little bit because it has maybe a hat put into it when it was recorded. And so that's why you don't want to put a whole kick into mono unless it's like a 808 or a really thumpy kick that just has no high end. So for this one, go to low end, put it in mono. Merged is another name for it. It'll sound like this. So that's always good. So another thing with low end, make sure nothing is boosted in the low end unless absolutely necessary. EQing is less of boosting and more of fixing and cutting things out. So a sub bass, if it needs to be louder, use a compressor. Do not boost frequencies unless absolutely necessary. So other than that, make sure everything has a tight cut of cutting out low frequencies that are not needed. So we're just going to go through. Oops. You don't always have to use steep 8. I just use usual steeps because I like keeping a tight mix. You just want to do this for most of your things. Loops are I'm going to keep them around 100 so they have some type of percussive being to it. This does not have something. This is a perk 17. Assuming it's just a regular perk, I will put it on a steep 6 at 135, 120. Doesn't matter. So, claps, you can be a little bit lenient on. Okay. So, the song is very loud, but there's a way to fix that by lowering everything by 5 decibels. So, I'm probably not going to do this with the song. I'm just going to mess around with certain volumes. But if your track is going above -6, usually between -6 and -3 is okay. But if it goes above -3, you need to lower things. Usually -3 or 6 to 3 decibels of headroom is very recommended for mastering. So -6 is excellent. -3 is, it's okay if you do -3. There'll just be less headroom to work with. Some people even do all the way to -9, like really, really low headrooms, or high. They give a lot of headroom, but low volumes. So it's all based around what you want to do and what you can do based on the track you have. So this song in particular, if we look at the drop, second thought, we put those loops back on this. These verses are a little bit too loud. Okay. So impacts should be a pretty tight cut. Maybe back at 80. White noise should be a tighter cut. 6. About 120. So it's really just going around and adjusting everything for the final part. So now we're going to go back and listen again. One thing you can notice is there's a lot of, like, think it sounds like compression almost when we go from 20 to 364. There is way too much reverb in this mix, so we're going to deal with that. I'm going to bring everything down. This is not how I would usually mix a track, but I wanted to practice sending FX through routing, so that's why it's a lot different than how I usually do things. All right, let's see how it sounds now. You can see a lot of that excess high or low mid. You could tell it was all right here, and it was like a compression sound. There's a lot of low mid and mid reverb that was just overloading the mix. So that's always good to check. And you don't always have to check from 20. You can actually bring it up. And I'll check that same range, but without the low end. Because our objective is to see if everything, if you can hear all of the elements. Because a lot of it can seem cluttered in the end and you don't even notice it. So it's good to use this technique at the very end because your mind, after mixing for a certain amount on the same song, you won't notice anything. So it's good to use this at the end when you're kind of like ready to master. It's good to isolate bands. And I'm using the preset in parametric EQ called 20 hertz to 18K, which is a preset we'll be using for the mastering process, which I'll probably do a video on. So we're gonna go from 300 to 10K and make sure everything's good there. So as you can see, there was a problem a little bit with the snare. So we're gonna listen to that now and see how it sounds. So overall, it sounds pretty decent. Um, so what we're gonna do next is specifically listen to the high end and manage that. High end usually is ignored, and low end is the biggest problem for everyone. But recently, high end has been a problem for me because I've been boosting too many frequencies, and when I cut out reverb, I put too much, and it dedicates it to the high end mostly, which is another thing you have to pay attention to. So let's listen to just the high end. see how that lead sounds? Seems like there should be some low end elements, so we're gonna check that out. I'm routing I'm routing most of these to limiter because since it's glitch hop and not a 4x4 trance song anymore, gross beat won't work out as much unless you have a lot of time to edit it. So let's listen to what it sounds like now. All right, so that should be about it. Um, sounds pretty good. I think that all the ranges sound amazing. So what we're gonna do is once you have it to your liking, make sure you have your headroom straight, everything's clean. Um, you're going to want to obviously save the project. Well, first, what you should probably do, master. I think this has Maximus. Take that off. The only thing, um, any FX like filters or EQ switches or drops, should be on here, and in front of those, meaning if I had a low, like a pretty low filter, where is it? But it was off because I was automating it. Needs to be in the slot below it, because if I do it this way, that means the low filter will bypass the EQ first. So we want the EQ first, but we don't need this. So I'd recommend on your master, have it clean, unless you have filters, and the last slot should be a parametric EQ with the preset of 20 to 18K. Fix the 20 to your liking. I don't think we need to go past 23. Keep it off HQ unless you want a high-end slope to cut it off. But I like sharp mixes, so I'm going to keep it off. And then export. And when you export, you want to export as wave. Call it a pre-master. So save it. And then you're going to save as a 24-bit wave. Even though dithering says on, probably, take it off. HQ for all plugins. So that means high quality mode. Not sure what that is. Not sure what that is. And resampling, it should be on like 16 or 24 by default. Try to get 512 if you have a good computer, but those are fine also. Would recommend 24-bit or 24 point, but 16 is fine too. I use 512 because I can do it. Export as a 24-bit, and that's about it. So now you just have to master.